backgrounds. Uh, so, can I please know uh, how many participants are there from the northeastern states? Assam and further east of it. Are there any participants from northeastern states? No? If yes, you can unmute yourself and just tell your name, right? So I'll be asking a few questions to understand the participant profile, and you can unmute yourself and give the answer. Any participants who are there from the southern states? Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala?
Ma'am, I'm Shruti. I'm from Tamil Nadu.
Okay, so one participant there.
I'm Vasundhara. I'm from Maharashtra.
Anyone else? Where are you from?
I'm from Maharashtra.
You can type it if you can't speak. Your mic is mute. Okay, so we have two participants, it seems, who are there from, okay. Vanaja is from Andhra Pradesh, Vasundhara is from Maharashtra, Shruti is from Tamil Nadu. Right. Anyone from Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra is already covered? No? Okay. Anyone from J&K? Okay. Anyone from J&K? No? Ladakh? No one? Right. Anyone from Haryana, Punjab, Himachal, Uttarakhand, the hill states, and the western, northwestern states? No? Okay, so I guess most of the people are from central India. Okay, how many from UP are there in this course? People from Uttar Pradesh.
Ma'am, I'm Vaishnavi. I'm from UP, Pitapur, UP.
Ma'am, myself, Aksa. I'm from Uttar Pradesh, basically Meerut, district Meerut.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Ritu Singh, Lucknow
Yeah.
से.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Chari from UP.
Okay, so a lot of people are there from UP. All right. So I assume most of the people are studying right now, or there are people who are professional who are working. Are there any people who are working anywhere in corporate, private, government, wherever? Any working professionals?
Admission.
I'm working as
You're working at?
freelancer.
Sorry, one at a time. Aksa, you were saying you're working at?
I'm working as a academy senior lecturer from Vivekananda Bharati University, Uttar Pradesh.
So your audio is not too clear, but I guess you're from the academic side?
Yeah, I'm from the academic side.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
working as senior lecturer. Yeah.
Okay, right. Famida, you wanted to say something?
I'm Famida and I'm a policy professional. And also pursuing independent research.
Independent research.
In science communication.
Anyone else who is a working?
Ma'am, I'm yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm DP and I belong to defense community, currently placed in Delhi. So, and I'm a freelance writer and a published author also. I've been a scientist and a biotechnologist by training. So.
Okay.
I'm Vasundhara.
Great. Anyone who has a startup already, who is working on a startup idea?
Ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yeah, so
this is Shoma Lahiri. Yeah, I'm Shoma Lahiri Malik. I'm from Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, and I am a psychologist professional.
Great. Okay. Vasundhara, you wanted
to
say something?
I would like to.
Yeah, Didi.
So since you asked, ma'am. So ma'am, just to ask, so 2 years back, around 2018, before the pandemic came, so I have been working on this created this product called Natural Oil, and we placed it on Amazon, or I think it was under FBA also. It was there for 2 years. Yeah, I had to pay for their outfit. So yes, little bit of that background, aware. Am I audible, ma'am?
Your voice is
I
breaking.
think. Okay. My internet is fine.
You are audible now, Diti. You can
I
speak.
can't. Okay. I can't see ma'am on the screen. So I was just.
Do one thing, you can turn on
Ma'am has
camera, so might be that will save your bandwidth and your voice
Network.
will be
I'm
clear.
sorry, I missed. Diti,
Okay.
you were saying something.
Sorry, I'll turn
Sorry.
off my video, I think. Yeah. So yeah, yes, ma'am. I was sharing my past experience. So we have been into product. We were making this home based lip balms and lip salve. Though we had a small manufacturing unit in Noida. So we created this
Noida,
product and we put it on Amazon also. And it was under the brand name Green Natural Oil. I didn't created. But again, I think the main problem was the marketing. It was pre-pandemic time, so things were like all retail things were required. We did it on Amazon. So I kept it there for around 1.5 years, and I had to pay the warehouse because I was not able to take out. So finally, I had to withdraw it from Amazon warehouse because their inventory is listed there. So I'm thinking how to improve the sales, all the things, and to work on it. That project is on, and other ideas that I'm working on, needing your guidance.
Okay, so you already created a product successfully, and where you got stuck was probably the marketing part of it or the selling part.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Means I thought there was an upsurge of this natural organic products, so I tried to do that ways, and there were so many which were coming that time in 2017-18 on Amazon also. So that was it seemed little fruitful for me, but somehow I think I lacked very much in marketing. I could not market it well. I was not aware about Insta and Facebook ads and all those things. If I would have now, I realize I would have done that. Maybe that presence should be there of anything. I think so. There, I did Amazon sponsored ads that we did, but again, that will cost so much, and I was not aware about the funding we can get from anywhere. So I was putting in my money. So somewhere you have to stop when you are just selling out from your pocket. So all those nitty-gritties of business. I mean, I did it as a mature. So,
but what did you think about the whole experience of creating your product and putting it on the market? How do you feel about it now?
So I own a product that feels great. So from scratch, I built a formulation. So from the scratch, I worked on it from the research. Then I built my own formulation. Since I was from a biotechnology background, I could work on oils and butter. I knew the chemistry. So that topic was known to me, and the demand also I understood because a lot of work in chemicals and people like us, they are now hesitant to use chemicals. So I could see that demand coming up of natural products. It was completely natural, even if you use the chemical to like sodium peroxide and things to preserve. Preservatives also within food. Because as such, we were not using water, so the shelf life of oil and butter is higher. So concept was there, thought was there, but again, what my analysis could reflect is that because of marketing, it lagged somewhere. I gave away the product to many people.
So I guess you want to try it again, and that is why you are there as a part of this.
I want to try again, and I have a couple of more ideas. And this time, since my husband is Indian Navy officer, so we are not stationary at one place. So I would like to try something online, e-portal, where I can keep on working while we are moving. So that is my idea. Of course, that BeNatural.in is there. It's my first venture, so I'll keep it in my mind, and I would like to relaunch it somehow.
Okay, thanks, Deepti. Anyone else who has a startup idea, who has worked on a startup? or already is working on some idea, or has a past experience working with startup? Anybody in the group? Any startup experience? Any business experience?
Yeah, ma'am, I have running my own institute named Positive Mindset in Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
And yeah,
Right.
and it is a.
Where are you based? Where are you?
I'm original from Calcutta, West Bengal, but I'm living in
Right.
Chhattisgarh, Bilaspur from last 8 years due to my husband's transferable job. And my husband is in BSNL, and an officer, engineer. So
Right.
yeah, my center
So
is.
you have your institute, and so all your offerings are localized to Bilaspur, or do you also have an online offering?
Yeah, online also.
Online as well. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
having
So
my
we have
own
two
office also.
entrepreneurs.
No,
Acha.
yeah, my own office also there in Bilaspur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have two entrepreneurs. Anyone else with an entrepreneurial experience?
Hi.
Anyone else? Yes. Yes, Pamita, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Mazari
I do not have as such entrepreneurial experience, but
Really after so long.
me and my friend, we are just started selling like some beauty product like henna and all. At the local level, the product is really very popular in our local community and local area. We sell that at marginal price. But what we are looking for, that we are not that much trained in the field, that how to register with MSME, or how we can put on online site. I think kind of certification we need for that prior to put on selling sites. So that's why these are the hurdles we are facing, because we do not have enough time to do. So that we are also working professionals, and also working in research areas as well. So in our spare time, we do little things as well. So, but we are not much clear about that, how to go about to expand our business or making it like a huge venture.
So I'm sure you learn a lot of basic concepts about entrepreneurship in the sessions that happen here, which will help you do your business or plan your business in a much more organized fashion. So some of you already have a business idea. Anyone else who has a startup or an entrepreneurial experience, or is doing something or planning something already? Only 3 people? Okay.
Well, hi,
Yeah.
I'm Vyoma, and I am planning to launch a podcast basically for science communicators. So I am thinking on that track, but I'm not sure that how much it is in demand in India, because how many people actually wants to get the knowledge about the science technology, because we as a normal people, the common masses are not aware of the technology basically. So if they are using a mobile, so they are not aware like what is the technology behind it. So yeah, I'm trying to think over a podcast for science communicators basically. So I don't know, I have to get an idea over it. So
okay, so it's not
even I was
very
thinking on the
concretized
similar
as a-
line, just to just on the
I cannot hear you, ma'am.
sorry Vyoma, just
So,
to add on,
Vyoma,
ma'am.
as you yeah, just a second, Deepti. Vyoma, so I think during the course of the session, you need to work on this idea, and as you keep applying the principles that are taught here, you keep applying on your business idea and create a business plan. It will be more concretized, and you'll know exactly how you want to go ahead with it. Also, I'll be having a lot of interactive sessions, and during the course of time, we'll be addressing individual queries as well. Right, but it's not that we'll leave the topic. So there'll be different aspects that we'll be covering, and we'll be taking up your businesses. So instead of taking hypothetical ideas, we will be actually taking real life ideas from the entrepreneurs here, and then we'll start working on that and applying our collective brains here. Because see, it's not like imagination can be done or planning can be done by a single person. More the brains applied to it, the better it is. So
Exactly.
there's so many people out here in this course. So by the end of it, I'm sure people who already have this business idea will get a lot of valuable inputs to concretize their ideas into a much better shape. So by the end of it, on the last day, when I'll be seeing your business presentations, I'm sure your idea would have shaped up much better. So to begin with, have this idea for all other participants who do not already have an idea in mind or who are already not working on something. Please select an imaginary idea from some field where you have some experience or which you feel comfortable with based on your knowledge, your qualifications, your experience, or your interest area, where you think you can provide a service or a product or create a product. Please select an idea, and during the course of this program, try to validate this idea, try to create a pre-feasibility report, try to do a market survey, and try to create a business plan for this, which we'll be presenting at the end. Right? So once you have undertaken this journey for one idea, you know you can take it for any number of ideas. Preeti and Vanaja, your hands are up. Do you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am.
You're raised?
Yeah. So I'm basically still as working as a researcher, but since after doing my post graduation from University of Cambridge, so I was basically working on an idea to create the science museums and science playground in the school. So the team we are working is basically how to create the scientific temperament, because that is the one thing in the context of India or in the many undeveloped or like developing countries are facing. So still I'm doing a research part. So maybe in future I would like to work in this
Where are
as
you
a
based,
scientific
Preeti?
venture. Presently,
Where are you based?
I'm from UP, Kanpur, but presently I'm working in a Jawaharlal University with a group of researchers who is working on creating how designing the science museum in the concept of the many developed countries like America and UK, and also like in Italy. Italy, we have the most modest models of the science museums, and all these countries have we have seen from the 17th century they are growing well in science education in comparison to the developing countries. So our idea and my research topic was on developing the scientific temperament to the common masses. So I have some little bit experience with the Vigyan Prasar DD science channel, and also I have worked in a science like mobile science education. In India, there was a train running science education, Science Express. So I have been part of that project for a long time. So that is how I'm just still researching, because it will take a lot of time to develop these kind of things so that the school going kids use the science playground concept. Now we are researching on a digital platform, because since the COVID-19 situation came, we are not sure how it will take time to reopen the school physically for the student, but definitely this is not going to be last for the longer time. But anyways, since the COVID situation came, we have to improve and inculcate a new idea of digital science platforms also to learn innovatively.
So, Preeti, this is a very golden opportunity for you to actually plan this whole thing, do all your research work, and keep the blueprint ready. So, once the sessions start, hopefully next year, you can actually be in a position with a ready roadmap to implement. So, you can utilize this period as well.
I understand, ma'am. But since I'm not alone involved in this, and I have to again go back for the research purpose to UK, back to the University of Cambridge again to complete my degree.
Okay.
So maybe after 2 years, since that's why I'm still researching and working with the team in the different Indian researchers. in different eminent universities. So presently, I'm doing research with a group in Jawaharlal Nehru University. So
So
maybe
your interests are
I
currently research based and not business based as such in this.
it is a research bit,
Or do you have a business model around this idea? Is there a revenue generation potential for this?
look like even the previous things also, like fear is a basic instinct of a human being, and since I have not with this being a researcher, it is like now being a part of my life to go in detail in everything. So I'm just fearful about this marketing and all these things. So maybe I'm thinking that presently I'm not that much well equipped with my personality.
I understand this program is only for first generation entrepreneurs, people who already have done it, know it already, right? So family businesses already have resources.
Ma'am, one thing
I expect that at the end, if I will be enough.
Yeah, you'll be having a much clearer concept about how to go about it. Right.
So
you can work on this idea, by the way, and see how you can add a revenue model to it, so it makes a business proposition or a business sense.
Yeah, because it is a business yes, because it is a business proposal. It is a quite running high value business in the foreign countries, but in India, people are not.
So it's a good thing to replicate it, whether people are interested or not. So that is something that you will learn in the market survey. Soma, you wanted to say something there.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Actually, I want to introduce myself that I already done linguistics in master's in linguistics from Calcutta University. Done done also MBA in human resource, B.Ed done, and now I am doing PhD from Rajasthan NIMS University in psychology.
God, you are too educated. Done so many things already.
Yeah, ma'am.
That is, I'm fearful about too many educated people in this platform, and I'm just a naive. Only still have experience of doing research and putting up new ideas for research only, but not putting up new ideas for the entrepreneurs.
Okay, so research and entrepreneurship are still at loggerheads, because research is about creating things whether they have an application or not, and entrepreneurship is more about implementation and execution, and whether this is a financially viable model or not. So that part has to be brought in. So the thought process has to change, right? When you move from research into entrepreneurship, the thought process has to change, because it's no more about just knowledge creation, it's about market creation, right?
Yes. Well,
Deepti, you wanted to say something at that time when Vyoma was telling about the podcast thing, that you want to do something of similar nature.
Yeah. So currently, I also have similar idea in my mind, because I'm a continuous listener to this week in biology. There's certain eminent scientists in the US who keep on talking about new updates. Every weekly update they keep on talking about that. So I also had similar idea in my mind about podcast. It's a new thing which is coming up. People are sitting on to listening to the stories and rather than reading. So podcast I think a great idea that we can work on.
Okay, so right. Anyone else who wants to share their business idea? Yeah, Deepti, you were saying?
Yes, thank you. I was just saying thank you, ma'am. I think there was some network issue.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so till now we have 5 people, 4 people who have some business idea. Anyone else who has a business idea that they want to work on, for which they joined this course? Anything in their mind? No. So you start thinking now. So this is the assignment. This is a workshop. This is not a lecture series. This is a workshop. Yeah, Suma.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I already ma'am, I already thinking for the next. Yes, so for the
just a second.
next
I'll first hear
next
listen to
idea.
Soma, then answer. Yeah.
Next idea that is And next idea is the publication house I want to open.
Okay.
Simultaneously with
Okay.
my previous work.
Okay. So, Aksa, please tell me, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I have a small idea of handmade products. Like I have an experience of small exhibitions kind of a stuff. So maybe in future I work on that. Basically, I belongs to the home science field, and we have a very creative field there. So maybe products of handmade things or the cooking itself, like products itself. So for that point of view.
Aksa, I don't know why your voice is breaking. I cannot actually make out very clearly. Am I the only one who is facing this problem, or others can hear it clearly?
No, ma'am, I can't hear.
I have
Aksa, your voice is breaking actually. I can't make out clearly. You said something about homemade products.
Yeah. I have a experience of exhibitions on the handmade products. Basically, I belongs to the home science field. So our field is a very creative and innovative kind of a field. And we have the experience of handmade products, or you can say the cooking products. That's the only reason I joined this workshop. Maybe after that, I will start my own entrepreneur. Basically, I got married in a business family too. So now I feel that is it. Otherwise, not at all. Before that, I'm a true.
So you are already half. You already have the resources then, right?
Yeah.
A lot of resources available. You have a business family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can say. You can say.
Okay.
Thank
So
you,
we
ma'am.
have 6 people here who already have some business idea in their mind. Anyone else who has any idea and would like to share that they want to work on? Okay, if not, there are some concepts that I want to introduce regarding the business opportunity part of it. There are certain things that you need to understand about business and apply it on your idea and test it. How do you make your idea fit into those criteria and identify where your idea lies, right? So one is when does an idea actually when is it actually called an opportunity? It's actually called an opportunity when it has a business proposition. And what's a business proposition? A business proposition is when there's someone who wants to buy it. You know, it creates value for someone, and that's a sizable number. There's a sizable number of people who need that value that you are about to provide. Because for a business to run, for a business to be sustainable, it has to be tested on certain criteria, which we do in the pre-feasibility study, market survey. All those are tools before you start a business, because a business requires a lot of resources in terms of your time, in terms of your effort, in terms of monetary resources that you will put in. So before actually going into the field and doing the business, you actually first do a lot of filtration of that idea. So there's an idea validation thing. So you validate your idea on certain criteria. Once the idea validation is done, and there's a product involved, you do the product validation, you do the market testing, you do the market survey. So you test the waters. Before plunging in, you test the waters, right? So the concept is that when you're testing the waters, you're trying to minimize your risk. You don't go all out in the beginning. So the startup philosophy of business says that first do a pilot, first do the testing at a small scale, see of that idea, and then pool in resources into it, then go all out and plug in resources into it. Once you know that this idea is working in the market, or this idea has a potential in the market, and this is a viable idea. Do not actually burn your fingers right in the beginning, so that you don't have the strength or the resources left to move on in the long run. So business are of different kinds. Entrepreneurship covers a vast variety of things, but generally when we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about 2 things. So the government's criteria, it talks about 2 things in startups. One, it talks about innovation. Second, it talks about job creation potential. So if I'm a writer and I write books, then I am an entrepreneur who is a freelancer who is self-employed, but I'm not creating employment, right? So there are a lot of overlapping things that happen. Business, entrepreneurship, startup, MSME, and how these things are interconnected. So one is when you're looking for an idea, you have to make sure it makes, the idea should make a business sense. It makes a business sense when there are enough number of people who value what you are providing. They are ready to spend money to buy that thing. It can be a product, it can be a service. People are willing to buy. Then you'll have sufficient demand. The market size should be sufficiently large for you to go on. It should not be that a very small amount of people need it, and once you have given them once, they don't need it again. Then the market ends, right? So the size of the market has to be something which can make it a ongoing venture. It's not a short-term thing. Once there's sufficient demand, is there a financial viability in it? Is it executable? Is it operationally executable? Do you have the wherewithal and the resources to execute that idea yourself? Or you need additional resources or additional support to do it? Can you actually get that additional support or additional resources? Can you source it somehow? If you can't, can you modify which you can execute at your strength with whatever resources you have as of now? So that needs to be tested. Is how difficult it is to operate or execute this idea. How difficult it is to reach your market. What about the legal viability of it? Is it allowed? Is it not breaking, whether it's complying all the laws of the land? It's not violating anything. So the compliance part of it also needs to be taken care of. So those things will be covered as to what legal viability is, what are the different forms in which you can do the business, and what are the compliances that are required. There's some minimum compliances, but there are certain sectors in which there are additional compliances, right? So if it's an electronic product, you need to have an ISI certification. If it's a food product, you need to have an FSSAI certification. If it's a financial idea, you might need an RBI license to be able to execute it. So, and compliances have costs, right? So it also depends on what is the legal environment of the country, whether it permits you or not. What is the time frame of that business, right? Is it a seasonal business? Is it an ongoing business, or is it a short-term opportunity? Someone talked about COVID-induced businesses. So it's a short-term opportunity. Businesses don't last for long. There's an opportunity, you see it, you exploit it, and then that gets over. So, whereas these days technology changes so fast, market changes so fast, lifestyles are fast evolving. So what happens is, when we talk about long-term, generally say 5 years. So beyond 5 years, you don't know how things will change and how environment will change. So at least 5 years roadmap idea. At least it should be workable for that. If you've put in so much of effort, and a business takes a fair amount of time to start getting response from day one, or there's always a break-even period after which the business becomes financially profitable and it starts scaling up. So you have invested all that, then there should be some time frame till which you can exploit the profits. And why I keep talking about profits is, profit is not a bad word. If you think profit is a bad word, then business is not the right field for you, because business exists to make profit, right? So it should have profitability. Otherwise, it's a social service or a kind of a thing. So there are social ventures. Okay, business can have a social objective. Social entrepreneurship is very feasible these days, where the focus is not on profitability or scalability. The focus is on impact creation, but sustainability. So there they talk about sustainability, not profitability, but there also they need money to sustain that social entrepreneurship idea and to grow that social entrepreneurship idea. So sustainability comes there. So if it's not scalability in profit, it's a scalability in impact. Here, it's about profitability. Here, it's about sustainability. So the terminologies change, but the concepts more or less remain the same, right? So let's not get confused there. Whereas social service, when social or charitable ideas, these are the ideas which do not have an inherent revenue potential. So they need funds from outside. They need grants or funds or government support to be able to execute them. For instance, I'll give an example. A friend of mine runs an NGO that supports children, that helps in resettlement of children who have been rescued from situations of abuse, right? Now, children can't pay. They have just been rescued by the government from trafficking, from some abuse kind of an atmosphere. And then there's a whole lot of things, gamut of activities arranged with it. Now, this also works. The rest of it is all like a built like an enterprise, you know. So what all are the things involved? Where will you source the children from? What are the processes that they will undergo? Going to be there, right? But here, the business does not, this work does not have an inherent revenue model. The children cannot pay to sustain the operations of this, right? To be grants generated for it. There has to be government grants, there has to be private grants, there can be individual grants, but there have to be people who are funding a charitable institution to do a work like this. So since it does not have a revenue potential, this cannot be classified as a social venture or a startup venture or an enterprise, right? It's a social work, totally charity-based thing, right? So there is an input, there is an output, there is an impact, everything is there. People need it. There's a market for it. People need it. All that is there, but it does not have a revenue potential. It doesn't qualify as a business. So that's an important thing. And these feasibilities you have to test on your business before you say it's a business proposition. Can you operationally execute it? What does it require for operational execution? If it requires a lot of resources, can you source that resources? If you do not, if you cannot source those resources, then probably you need to change your business model. You have to understand how to make it operationally light. So maybe Aksa has a business family, and if she creates the product, she has the network to take it forward. Maybe someone else does not have it, right? So it will depend individually. So a lot of it is individual resource, individual competence, individual knowledge, individual skills, and the group that can do it. So it might not be a single person who starts a business, but a group of people, and it's always considered good if you want to start a business and you have a group of people involved, because then it's more likely that the business can be taken forward in the long run, because as the business grows, the work increases so much that it's not possible for a single person to hold it unless they find very good either key employees or partners to help them take it forward. Okay, so there are different places from where you can generate idea. This is for people who do not already have an idea. How can you generate an idea? It could be based on some skill that you have, some special skill that you have, right? Which you think can create something useful for the people, which can benefit the society, which can create something useful for people. Can you create a business model around it, right? So a service that can be created using your skill, your special skill, your special training. So that skill can be your academic thing, or it could be a non-academic skill also, right? So one is it might generate, the idea might come from the special skill that you have. It could also come based from the experience you have. Suppose you're working in a certain sector for a long time and you understand that sector really well. You understand the problems. There are some problems that you can solve, for which you have a good solution, or there are certain things which are being done in a very inefficient manner, and there's some efficient solution that you can provide. You think you can better it out, and there's a revenue potential in it. So a business opportunity can come from there. It can come from, like I said, demands of, okay, so it can come from improvisation of a product. So some like inefficiencies in the system, inefficiencies in the services, inefficiencies in a product that you can better. So it's an improvisation based idea. It can, a business opportunity can come from a demand supply gap, right? So like someone said, okay, like Preeti told that there are a lot of scientific museums and playground for children in the West, but in India we do not have them. So she sees there's a gap here in this market. So in Indian market, there's a gap in certain service which she thinks she can plug and create an opportunity here because it's not already happening here. So this is a demand supply kind of a gap. You see it elsewhere, you see it's not here, and you bring it to a new market. It can be an innovation based thing. You create a new product or you innovate a new business model. For instance, if you talk about Ola and Uber, they do not have a new product. They don't even own a product. They don't even own the cabs that they run. What they have brought in is a new business model. There were always those taxi services we could avail. They were not platform based. There was no transparency, arbitrariness of rule. All those things were there. And they tried to organize an unorganized market. So you are organizing an unorganized market using technology. That's what Uber or Ola is, right? Do not own anything. There's no product service. They have created, the innovation is in the business model. There can be an innovative product as well. For instance, as in biotechnology, there's so many biotechnology research that is happening and new products, new medicines, new things are being created. So it could be an innovation based thing. There's a problem and you have been able to innovate or create a new product or a new solution for it that you can now bring in. So idea can come from there. So why am I talking about all this? This is for the participants to think about the idea that they want to take up. Where can the idea come from, right? Ideas can happen from accidental discoveries, right? Someone discovered penicillin and then antibiotics were found. Okay, so it can come from that. You find that steam has the power to propel an object and a steam engine is created. So it can also come from such discoveries, and if you find an application that has an industrial application somewhere, so then that becomes a business opportunity again. So these are various things. These are the various things that you can use. These some of these can come from an experience. You went on a train and you realized on a train journey that these facilities are not available, and what if these were made available to the people? This would make people would be willing to pay for it. It would increase their convenience and people would be willing to buy this. So from based on your experience or the problem you faced, and you feel there's an opportunity. A lot of it comes also from experience that people have faced, and then they said, if I am facing it, there are so many other people who must be facing it and wishing that something could solve this. And if I got it, I would pay for it, and therefore other people might also think like me. But this is just idea generation. So listen, this is first step. This is idea generation, right? It does not mean that this is the final idea. Idea has to be validated. So these are some of the ways in which you actually generate your idea. Now, you need to understand a few concepts again from the market side, right? So that is your side of what you can do or what appeals to you. But there's a market side to it. Now, you have to identify who the customer is, who are the people who need it. Then needs, okay, someone also mentioned, I joined the session at 4 and there was the previous session that was being taken by Jyoti ma'am. And someone spoke there about this creating need. Okay, so there are three concepts when you understand, you're understanding the customer need. There's something called need, there's something called want, and there's something called unrealized need. Anyone who can, who has this idea of what is the difference between needs, wants, and unrealized needs, unidentified needs.
Yes, ma'am. I have the idea.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, need is a basic thing. What we have the basic requirement means our house, our clothes, and our food. This is the need,
Right.
primary need, and then the secondary need, and then it comes the after the fulfillment of a need, then it comes to the want. Means I want to go there for to buy something extra. This is want, and unexpected want or unexpected want means whatever I suddenly got that is I don't have any idea previously from that I can get it from somewhere or something or I can achieve it is right now, and I think it is the unexpected want.
Okay, so that's unrealized need. Okay, Aksa, you wanted to say something. You started saying
yes,
something.
ma'am.
I agree. I definitely agree with Soma ma'am. The theory of Maslow's theory. But in a business point of view, we can say the need of the people. If we know the need of the people, then we express the want demand in the terms of the market. If we know the want, our supply or demand depend on that.
Okay. Okay, so Soma has quite a bit cleared it, but let me also elaborate on it. Okay, so when we talk about needs like food, water, shelter, people talk about, but roti, kapda, and makan, but that's not just the basic need when we talk in terms of business. It could also be a lot of other needs that have become a necessary part of life. So mobility could be a need. Mobility has not something that is desirable. It is something that is required. Communication has become a need. It is something that we need now. It's not optional, right? So needs evolve, needs change. Sometimes the wants, things that were wants earlier. So when I was growing up, very few houses had landlines or telephone connections. So it was a desirable thing, something that people aspired to get, right? And there were long waitings. There were waitings for 3 years and 5 years to get a telephone landline connection. So that was the time. Now I think that there's nobody who doesn't have a mobile or a communication device. Even my maid has some communication device and actually a smartphone, right? And every member of the family has one. So what has happened is now it's no more something desirable that people aspire to have one day. It's become almost a need to stay connected. So needs also evolve over a period of time. Wants are something that you would like to have, you desire to have. It's something aspirational, but which if not there, it won't drastically affect your life. But it is something that is good to have. It adds to your good life feeling. It adds to your feel good feeling. It adds to your status symbol, right? So there could be needs like that, social needs. Having, okay, so even a fossil watch tells the time, even a Titan or HMT watch tells the time, but fossil watch is more of social need to create a status symbol out of it. So there, those kind of needs also, those psychological needs are also there, right? So a lot of products that sell on this elitist concept, so capitalize on that social need to look different. So if every rickshawala has an Apple product, will people go and buy an Apple product? So it deliberately keeps its cost high because it wants only a selected few people, a selected people, set of people only to have that phone, because that brand has become an elitist brand. So that is how they are placing that brand. So they don't want to make it a common man's brand, because then the status symbol will be lost, right? So that's another need, right? That's psychological need to wear exclusive things. Designer wears work on that need. That is how designer labels work. So one is that. And creating need or unrealized need is basically need that we have because that product never existed. We never knew something like this is possible. So we never had the need for it. And we did not even we had not even imagined it, ki it's good to have or something, because we didn't know this could be. Thing happens and then suddenly you realize, no, I needed it. This was something I required. So when smartphones were not there, we never realized that there could be a device that would do all our things. We would be we'll be connected all the time, and we could communicate on internet. So when it didn't exist, how could we feel the need for it? But once it came and it started percolating, and there were a few people who used to have it, and you would see and feel like a magical device or something. It was expensive to buy. And then suddenly you see how it has percolated. Everyone started feeling that this is an important thing to have, and this was not a need that you would have realized earlier, but now it has become almost a need for everyone. So it could be an entertainment need. So when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so those who have studied that, they talk about physiological needs and safety needs, and then safety needs, physiological needs, all these are like basic needs. But there are a few other needs which over a period of time have become almost like a need. They have percolated so much that you can't imagine life without it, right? So why are we talking about this? We are talking about this because the stronger the need for an item, the stronger is the market for it, right? Easier it is to convince people to buy it. Because if it is an essential item, if it is an FMCG item, I have to eat. Ration I will go and buy. I mean, nobody needs to convince me to buy ration. Where I buy it from is a different thing, right? So it's a need that I already realize, and I will take it from somewhere. So if you give me a better product, why not you? क्योंकि लेना तो मुझे है ही है. It's not a matter of option. वो तो मैं लूंगी ही because it is my need. Now then comes the want part of it. So things which are expensive, which are not necessary, I will plan for it. If I have the resources, if it makes sense to me, I'll do the cost benefit analysis. I'll see my resources. A certain group of people will buy it, others will not buy it, right? So even based on your market segmentation, for some people it might be a need, for some people it might be a want, right? So you identify your market, you realize how strong the need is for that particular product or service in that market. Whether you're offering, what you are taking to the person, is it the need of that customer? Is it a want of that customer? Or is the person not even realizing because he has not had a past experience and people around him are not using? For instance, Preeti's idea. Museum is not our habit. We don't realize and feel the need for it. Ki scientific museum nahi hai. We need a scientific museum. We need scientific playground in our community because we have not seen it all around. It's not as if it's there in other cities. It's not in my city. Why can't my city have it? My children don't get to see it. It's not like that. Others are also not having it. I am not having it. Others are not having it. I am not exposed to the concept. So I don't have a need. So you'll have to convince me why it is important. So when it is an unrealized need, you need to do that market awareness as well. You'll have to invest time and resources into educating the market, right? And making the market aware of this need, which they haven't realized yet. They don't even realize it as of now, how important it is for their children to develop, to understand scientific concepts. So that is why now, based on this, there is this concept. It's not always good to be the first mover in the market. Why it's not good? Because if people don't already have a need for that market, you'll have to start creating that need by education, by awareness, and you'll be spending so much of resources, time, money to actually build up that market. That market is already not existing. So you have to build up. And the second mover who comes, the market is already ready. The ground is fertile, and he has an easy walk-in because people have already realized that need and they are ready for that market, right? So that is why we say it's not always the first mover who gains the advantage. Sometimes it's the second mover who gains the advantage in the market, because the education part and the awareness part has already been done by the first mover, right? So that is one concept you need to understand. So it's not always that the most innovative or inventive product is you launch and you'll be having a ready response from the market. So it depends on how strong the need is, whether it is a felt need, it is an unfelt need. It is an unrealized need, unfelt need till now. So people are not even aware of it. So that is one concept. So you need to know where your product or service lies. So if it is in want, how do you create the desire in your customer, right? So that is one part. Another part is the different categories of business. You need to understand this, and when we talk about businesses, so business is a whole, a superset, and there's small subsets under it. So MSME is one subset of business. Startup is one subset of business. And then there's something called self-employment. Self-employment is, like I said, you are the employee. There's no scalability. You have a talent, you are selling it, and you are getting it. There's no growth or scalability in it unless you find a model in which you can actually scale up that business and create job potential, create an unlimited potential in that particular field, right? So and many times businesses will start as self-employment, and over a period of time you find a way to grow it, to scale it up, and then from self-employment it grows into a big enterprise. So that is also one way that you start a business with, right? There is something called entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? Anyone knows that? It's a sister of entrepreneurship. Actually, same concepts apply. Same thing is there. There's only one difference.
Ma'am, the online business, if I'm not wrong, online business,
no.
internet, which is
no. So entrepreneurship is basically when you are doing same entrepreneurial, you are starting a new project or new venture for a company in which you are already working. Someone else is paying for it. So a company has employed you, or you are in a company. You take a business proposal, a new business proposal to your MD, and you say that this is something that I can do for the company and a new business line can start. And the company says, okay, they like the idea and they say, okay, I'll fund this. You go ahead. Now, what happens in that case? You are working on a new innovative project, right? Starting from scratch, from conceptualization to execution, making it profitable. The whole journey of business you'll do, but you're doing it for someone else, right? For your employer or for the company that has hired you to do it. So now you are an entrepreneur because somebody else is putting in the resources. The product or the service, the rights of that product or service belong to someone else. If you leave that company, it will stay with the company, not with you, because the company has given the resources. Company has taken the risk on your idea. So the risk and the resources come from the company. So the idea belongs to the company, or the business belongs to the company. So you might be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur inside an existing company or an existing venture as well, right? So but then you are executing a new business and establishing a new business, but you're doing it for someone else. So it belongs to someone else. That is basically entrepreneurship, and that is very much appreciated in a lot of new age companies and startups and IT firms. If you can actually start a new line for them, right? So you can also collaborate with another company and do it through them, and then the resources of the company become available to you. The risk and returns are both theirs, not yours. So that's called entrepreneurship, but you are undertaking the whole journey of setting up an enterprise and making it run and making it profitable. So that's called entrepreneurship. So lot of new generation IT companies encourage it a lot in their employees. If you have an idea, just show it to the management, and management likes it. They will support you and you do it for them. And you'll be made the head of that project or something like that, right? So this is another thing, and that is one reason why it is so important that this entrepreneurial mindset. So entrepreneurship is a mindset actually. So this entrepreneurial mindset is developed in students, so it helps them even in their careers, to grow in their careers. Okay, then we talked about self-employment, we talked about MSMEs, we talked about startups, right? So, okay, so a startup did not have a formal definition. Now this is all intermingled. MSMEs are actually businesses, micro, small, medium enterprises. Based on the size, these are traditional businesses. Traditional in the sense, they are business models, they are businesses which are well established in the market. The process to be followed is well set. The whole business model is predefined. What are the resources required, from where you'll source the raw material, where is the market, what is the supply chain, what are the profit margins. It's a competitive market already, because so many people are doing it. The market is already competitive. There's a formula which has been discovered, a formula of success, how to make profits in this business. You need to just replicate it. You need to replicate it. And so for instance, say Kirana business or a pharmacy business, you already know what is involved, what are the margins. You cannot set your own margins. You buy it from wholesale market, you sell at a retail counter. Margins are already fixed. How much is the margin of the distributor, margin of the dealer, margin of the stockist, margin of the retailer? It is all fixed. You cannot tamper with it. The business model is already predefined. And in a competitive market, you can actually reduce your margin. So you say, I'll give 10% discount. So if you have 20% margin, now you're playing only on 10% margin for yourself, and 10% you're offering as discount. But your margin remains 20% only, because everyone else is taking 20%. You start taking 30%, nobody is coming to you, because everyone is doing it at 20%. If you charge more, why will somebody buy it from you, right? So these are MSME businesses, all the cottage industries, all the individual based businesses. So in any economy, MSME is the backbone of economy in any country. So 80 to 90% of businesses will be micro and small businesses. Medium bhi bahut kam hote hain. So all these people that you see on the roads having single shops, or people making things from home and supplying it, all these juice shops and fruit vendors, and all these people are all coming under MSME businesses. Why they are called MSME is basically because they are doing a traditional model they are implementing a traditional model of business which is well established, and the product is well known, and business model is well set, the supply chain is set. Financial viability is already discovered. What is the financial viability model? What is a startup? Startup is an experimental business when you are bringing in something new in the market, and a lot of these are technology-based businesses. So it's generally done by knowledge professionals. So they employ their knowledge of technology and their knowledge of business to bring in new business models and new products and services in the model. But what is the catch? The catch is that 90% of startups fail. Why? Because it's an experimental model, right? You're bringing in a new thing. A new thing might work. So what can be, when you start with a hypothesis, right, and perform an experiment, so it can either, the hypothesis either turns out to be true or it turns out to be false, right? So you're doing an experiment. It might either work or it might not work. So we are going with the assumption that the market needs it, market might not need it, or you might not be. So there are a lot of reasons for business failure, not just one. So I'm just saying market failure as one, but there's a financial failure, there could be execution failures. There are different kinds of failures that can happen, but let's not discuss it. There can be partnership failures. Those are different things, but the thing is that this is a thing which is not already proven and established in the market. You're trying to bring in, test something new, and it might work out or it might not work out. So what is the way if it doesn't work out? If it doesn't work out, you change the business model. You try something new from the learnings that you have had in your experiment. Whatever you learned, you apply it again and create a new hypothesis and try it out again, right? and you incorporate the learning. So every time you try out, you already have the learnings of the past experience, and now you can do it in a better way. Now, a startup is a stage in the business also, right? A startup can also be considered as a stage in a business. Why do you say it's a stage in a business? It's because you are experimenting a new thing, you are testing it. But what if it works out? It will grow into a big business. If this business model is right, if it is successful, it will grow. If it grows, it becomes a big business. So it will scale up. Now, so a startup can be said to be, say, a seedling or a fledgling stage of a business. If this model turns out right, it becomes a big business one day. The startup can also be looked as a stage in business, right? Most startup is also a philosophy of doing business. Why I say it's a philosophy of doing business is because before pooling in your resources and getting into a traditional businesses, you're trying to bring in a disruptive model by employing your knowledge. You're a first generation entrepreneur. You do not have the resources, but you have the skill, you have the knowledge. You're employing your knowledge to transform an existing business. And you are doing it in an experimental way. So when you do an experiment, you don't put in all your resources. You try it at a small scale in your lab. Once you think it is working, only then will you try it at a bigger level. So what happens is it is said that whenever you launch a new business, and before you have hit the right model, do not burn your resources. And resources includes your time as well, right? Your time and your money as well. So do not burn too much resources. Experiment, find out the right model, pivot the product or the model till the time you get the right thing which matches the market, to which the market responds, through which you can make profits, and then you start scaling it up, right? So, and I'm talking about scaling up because most of these business that we are talking about, and when we talk about business, we are expecting one day for it to grow big. It has a future potential to grow big and to employ people, to provide employment, generate employment, right? So we'll talk, when we talk about business, we'll talk about these businesses which have a potential to grow and generate, over a period of time, and scale up over a period of time and employ more people. We'll not talk about standalone or self-employed businesses. We'll not talk about entrepreneurship, right? So most of the courses are around that. Then businesses can also be categorized as product businesses and service businesses. In product businesses, you sell something tangible. In service business, you provide a service against a cost. So most of the cottage industries that are there, when you say women making handicraft or homemade product, what kind of business is it? So it's a manufacturing kind of a business, right? It's a product business. Under product business, it's a manufacturing business where you are creating a product or manufacturing a product. There's something called trading business. What is a trading business? Okay. So if you are not manufacturing the product, someone else manufactures it, you buy it from X place, you sell it at Y place, right? So you're part of, so this entire dealer, supplier, stockist network is trading business. Retailer doesn't manufacture the product it sells. The distributor doesn't manufacture the product that it sells. It gets it from somewhere and it's takes it to some places. It's part of the supply chain. So this is a trading business. What's the difference? In manufacturing, you are creating a product or you are doing some value addition to a product. Whereas in trading business, you are not doing a value addition to the product as such. You are probably providing value by making that product available somewhere else, right? Where it is required. So you are providing the manufacturer market connect. So that's your value addition. You're providing connect to the market. So that's your value addition, but as such in the product, you are not making any difference. So that's a trading kind of a business, right? Understand what category your business falls into. When you're planning a business, apply all these parameters or filters and tell me what kind of business you are doing. So next time you tell me your business, you will tell me whether it's a product business, it's a service business, it's an MSME business, it's a startup business. Is it something new? Is it something already existing? So these are certain categories that you need to understand, right? What category your business falls into, and accordingly the business plan has to be made. So the strategy for each kind of business will be different. The planning for each kind of business will be different because each of it has a different requirement. Okay, I did not cover service business. Where service businesses are where there is no tangible product, right? Hello? Yeah.
Hi, Pravina. Pravina Vediboina. Pravina, this is Pratiti.
Somebody wants to say something? Sorry, I did not. Okay. Right. So service business is where there is nothing tangible that you're providing, but you're providing some kind of facility or a service that a person needs based on your skill. So something like, say, Urban Company. It's a service business, right? It's not a product business. It's a service business. Okay. So a lot of businesses that you'll see in India, a lot of them are service businesses. There are few product businesses. A lot of them are in MSME category. Innovative products, they're limited. So what is the advantage of a service business? The advantage of service business is that it requires less capital. And as you provide the service, you get the revenues. In a product business, you need some investment. You need to first create the product. You need to first design, create, test the product, develop enough, volumes of it, and supply it to the market. And then once it sells, then you'll get the revenue. So there's a time lag between creation of a product and getting the revenue from it, right? So it requires more investment also, and it has a bigger time span to go to the market. Service business has a shorter time span. What is the advantage of a product business? Why will you invest extra time and money? Product business also has this advantage of having a longer life, and if it's a unique product, then probably it's a replicable, or it's a better scalable business than a service business. Because in service, what happens is quality becomes very important. And as you scale it up, you cannot monitor all of it yourself, and it's difficult to control the quality when the scaling up happens, right? So one is that. Second, it's very easy to replicate. Anyone with the same skill set can replicate it. So the competitive advantage or the entry barriers are low in a service business. And because entry barriers are low, there are more people who can enter into it, and therefore you'll have more competition. Are we clear about the types of business? Anyone who wants to ask any question at this stage about the different kinds of businesses that are possible? No?
So, excuse me,
Okay.
ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah,
so, ma'am, if we are doing something related to science communication,
Participants, it's requested to please put on your cameras, video on when you're asking the question, please.
Ma'am, I think there's an issue of network. If I'm switching on my video right now, my voice is
Those
cracking.
who have the network issue, pardon, but otherwise it's requested in general to the participants to please keep your camera on, especially when you're asking questions from the speaker.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
ma'am. Okay, Deepti.
Ma'am?
I was asking, if we are doing something related to science communication, we are media related things we are doing, will it be categorized with the or the interviews or something articles, or it will be a product generating intangible, I mean?
Okay, so it is a service. Deepti, it is a service business, and it will be categorized under entertainment category or a media category, and it's in the MSME category, basically, unless you are doing something very innovative.
No, so
right? Or you're
articles
bringing a new concept to the whole thing.
and articles and the reading material, everything will be under services, not as a product itself.
No, not really. Unless you're launching a magazine or something.
Okay, newsletters and everything which comes online, they are all services. They're not products.
No, newsletters are not. Unless you're launching a brand.
Okay.
You're launching a new brand, right?
Okay.
In which case it becomes a product. Say you're launching a magazine. There's manufacturing involved.
Right? No, sometimes we say it is intellectual product. So I was that. So when we write or like all these copyright things are involved in that. So it is being categorized.
Yeah, right. So if you okay. So it also depends on, in this case, it also depends on what it is being provided as. For instance, you would have heard software as a product and software as a service. Same goes for literature or copywriting as a product or a service. So one is it is considered a product when you prepare it, you make it, and then you sell to the market. It is called a service when you do it on demand. When somebody has given you an order and you're fulfilling the order for that person. So if it's a product that you create and then take to the market, then it becomes your copyright, or you have the intellectual property rights to it. No one else can copy it, right? In which case it becomes your product. And in case you're doing it, someone has given you order for it and you're doing it in response to an order to someone, then it's a service, because then your article belongs to that publisher.
All right.
Then the article belongs to the publisher, not to you. He can publish it anywhere.
Okay.
Product is what you own, and service becomes what the person who's buying owns.
All right. I understood. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Yes,
ma'am. I want to know something. Yeah, I am doing the service business basically, and I'm enrolled with MSME. But means service, if I means give education and they are buying it from me, my idea, my educational policy and my educational techniques, everything, then it will be product, I think. It is doing product also.
No, so what happens is if you are educating someone, education is a service business. Even a doctor or a medical treatment is a service business, unless you own a hospital chain. So similarly, in education, it's considered a service business, unless of course you have some say intellectual property kind of a program which you sell as a program to anyone or anything as a brand. So then that becomes a product or a program that you own. Otherwise, it remains a service business.
Okay. And as a psychologist, I am involved with any hospital, then it will be service or
it is service. Doctor, all medical services are a service business.
Service. Okay. No product. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Any consultancy? Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Vasundhara, yeah, it's very mild.
Ma'am, any consultancy like marketing consultancy or any educational consultancy comes under service business?
Consultancy service. Consultancy is service. It always belongs to the customer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to ask anything? No? Okay. So continuing with this, a few things that you know you need to also understand about your market is what kind of market are you entering? Is it a monopolistic kind of a market? Is it an oligopoly kind of market? Is it a free competition? So if it is a free competition, so what is a monopoly and an oligopoly market? A monopoly market is where only government or one player can operate, right? For instance, Railways is something that only the government can operate. It is trying to bring in some private players. Now, once a few private players come into it, it will become an oligopolic market with government as one of the players. Otherwise, it's a government thing right now. So it's a monopolistic industry. Say airlines, like airlines. Airlines is an oligopolistic industry. Entry barriers are very high. Very few people can qualify to open an airline of their own, right? So there are very few players there, basically because of the resources and the terms and conditions and the legal obligations that are employed. Not everyone can go there. So there is less competition. What happens in this is that everyone gets a market player because competition is very limited. So everyone who comes with a new model will get some piece of the market. For instance, communication. See, earlier communication was totally oligopoly kind of a market. There were some 5 or 6 players who was the network. After Jio entered, most of them have died. Vodafone is struggling. There's now only Airtel and Jio left as the main network providers in the market, right? So these markets operate at a different level. They are regulated market, and there are few players. Markets where anyone can enter openly is a free market. So it's in a free competitive market. If you are entering to make a place, why we talk about innovation? Why is innovation so important? Because when you are entering a market which already has dominant players and the market equilibrium is already there, and you enter as a new player, how do you make your place? All the need of the people is being satisfied. They're trusting certain brands, they're using certain things. The need is not there, right? The need is already satisfied by other players. The demand supply gap is not there. How do you make your place in the market? To make your place and to make your identity in the market is why you need to bring some new flavor to what you are doing. It could be in form of the product that you are supplying, innovation in the product. It could be innovation in the business model. It could be innovation in the additional things that you are providing besides the product. So there's a concept of added or enhanced product, right? In which you add the services that you provide after the product. For instance, LG provides services. LG sells so much because they provide good in-house after sales customer services. So that becomes its branding, right? So there is this concept of product plus that you provide. So somehow you have to differentiate yourself to make your identity to stand out for making people try you, because their need is already satisfied by other players. Now, why should they try you out, a new person who has come into the market who they don't know? So there, to create that identity for yourself, you have to differentiate yourself from others. You have to do something which catches the eyeball. So this is even about MSME business that I'm talking about, not just their startup businesses, right? So and whether the market that you are entering is organized or unorganized. Now, what is an organized market? What is an unorganized market? Organized market is something where there are some big players which dominate that market. There might be many small players also in the vicinity which have a small market share. But there are some dominant players who are there in that market, controlling the most of that market, right? It's organized. Unorganized market is where there are a lot of small players with no dominant player there, no dominant rules there, right? And so that creates a business opportunity for anyone to enter, because all players are small. You can compete with anyone when you enter. When you are entering an organized market, then there's a competition because there's a strong competitor already there dominating, or 2 or 3 competitors who are dominating the entire market share. And you have to pull out the market share from those big, strong competitors. In unorganized market, there's no big dominant player, so all players are like you, and it's not that difficult to create a mark for yourself. So what kind of market are you entering? Depending on that will be your market strategy. It will be shaped accordingly. What kind of market you are entering, what kind of competitors you have there, and how you will make place for yourself there. Now, competitors is another big thing which I'll not discuss in this session. So anyone who says that there's no competitor is a liar, because so somebody says that if somebody says that there are no science playgrounds or science museums here, so all the scientific clubs, etc., that are there, and all the museums that are there, they all become your competitor. Or wherever science clubs where people go who are interested in science, they all become competitor to you. So there's never a business in which there is no competitor, because anyone who satisfies that need which you are addressing, anyone else who satisfies that need is a competitor. So if I'm selling this pen, then all the pens, so this pen, so all the ball pens are my direct competitors. The fountain pens, roller pens, and all those other pens are my indirect competitors. Even a pencil is my indirect competitor or a substitute that can be used. So everyone is satisfying the need for writing, for putting your words on paper. Whoever satisfies that need, making mark on the paper, is my competitor, right? I can't say that only ball pens are my competitor. So competitor ka concept is much wider. So once you start looking at it need base, then another thing that you need to understand is who are the different stakeholders in a business. So the most primary stakeholder is the customer, whoever will pay for your product. He's the most important. If there's sizable number of customers and they're willing to pay for your product, then your business is a success. So customer becomes the most important. Therefore, that people talk about customer centricity. You'll say, why customers service is so bad in India? Okay, so you've already bought the main product, so service they don't care about. Also, there are certain brands who know there'll be new people coming in by their brand name all the time, and they don't care about service, but there are a lot of people who do care. Or maybe the brand cares, but at the down level, the administrative or the management control is poor. Therefore, the delivery of the service doesn't turn out to be well. Like I told you, maintaining the quality of service is a big challenge in a service business. How do you maintain the consistency in quality when you scale up? So that is one thing. Who are the other stakeholders in a business? Who are the other people you have to take care of when you're doing a business? Okay. So government is a stakeholder in business, because you have to work as per government rules, right? You have to take the required registrations. You have to follow the rules of your industry or the regulating body that the government has created for your kind of industry. You'll have to take that into. So government decides a lot of rules there. All the economic policies are made by government, monetary policies are made by government, export import policies are made by government. So government is a major stakeholder in business. You have to know the policies, the laws, and all those things. Then your partners in the business, as you grow up, you'll be having vendors, partners, suppliers. They're all stakeholders in your business, because without them your business will not work smoothly. You have to maintain relations with them, and there has to be a smooth working with them, otherwise your business will get affected. So your suppliers, your vendors, your distribution chain, your employees are very important. Your partners and your employees, your team, your business team is a very important stakeholder of your business, because ultimately they'll be overall executing your business, right? So how well it performs also depends on how committed they are to your business, right? So so an entrepreneur also has to be a leader, because they have to lead this team, right? So this is one of the entrepreneurial qualities that you have to be taking along the team, keeping them motivated, keeping them believing in your ideas. So that's team building and leadership of teams is one quality of an entrepreneur. Investors, people who are investing in your business, who are providing you the money, be it if you've taken a bank funding, somewhere down the line you'll have to generate those funds. If you grow your business, you'll have to generate. So best money is the customer money. If you can generate funds from the market, if you can sell at a profit, customers, you have enough customers, you're making a lot of profits, then it's best to invest that money, because that money has no liability. There's no payback condition. There's no liability. There's no default risk on that business, on that money. Now, otherwise you raise money When you raise money, it can either be from bank, it can be from private investors, it can be from institutional investors like venture funds or private equity or venture capitalists, whatever. So they become a stakeholder in your business because now your business success also affects their business, right? So they will also dictate the policies of your business. They'll also be involved. You'll have to report to. So they become part of your board, company board. So then they also are a stakeholder in your business because you need to grow your business, make profits, and return their money. Multiply and return their money. That is why they have given you money. They have given you money to make money on it and give them their profits, right? That is why they have given your money. So they are an important stakeholder to which you are accountable, right? So when you're doing business, it's not just your product or service, it's all these stakeholders that have to be taken into account and be taken care of, and you have to be aware that these all are stakeholders in your product. And sometimes when you are doing so the business can also be based on the kind of business model that you have. Are you serving directly to the end consumer? Then it is a B2C business. If you're selling to an industry or an institution, then it is a B2B business, business to business, right? It's an institutional business. If your market is the end user or end customer, it's going to the public in general, it's available freely to all the people, then it's a B2C business or business to customer kind of a business model. If you're selling to a government institution or your product is only for government departments or government agencies, then it is a B2G product, business to government. So you are the business and you're selling to government. So it's B2G business, right? So in that case, government becomes your customer. A very difficult market to crack. Let me tell you, don't plan businesses based on B2G model. If that model comes in, very good. But don't plan businesses, my advice, as an experienced person, unless you have very strong links in the government, do not plan a business which only deals with government, in which government is the only customer, right? It can be one of the customers, but if it's only customer, then you should have the right links to crack the government mechanism because you know how government systems work. So it's not a free and fair market. It does not play by market rules. So free and fair market has different rules according to which you can design your market and design your business. So plan for B2C or B2B business. Both have its advantages and disadvantages. B2C is difficult to reach. B2B is easier to crack. Once you crack one, you have a bulk deal, can have long-term relationships. But there are different formulas, okay? So B2B and B2C have different business models actually to follow. And accordingly, you design your business model and your product, right? So that is another category of business. Now, another thing I wanted to tell you was about once you have this business idea, right, and you need support on
Ritu ma'am.
Yeah.
Ritu ma'am.
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you, ma'am. थोड़ा सा इसको अगर हम लोग speed up कर सकते हैं session को.
Okay. So I can stop anywhere. Doesn't matter. I can tell about the support agencies in the next session also. Or maybe I can mention all the support agencies that are there and we'll wind up there.
इसको थोड़ा सा मैम थोड़ा सा स्पीड अप कर दें. So हाँ.
Okay, so once you have an idea and you want to validate that idea, whether this makes a business opportunity or not, you need that support or validation support or somewhere. Where are the places that you can go for seeking that support, mentorship, and help, right? So one is if you're associated with an educational institution, probably most of the institutions have an entrepreneurship cell, which is either a faculty-led kind of an initiative or it is a student club kind of an initiative, where all the entrepreneurial activities of the campus happen through that, right? So they keep doing these events where they call entrepreneurs, or they'll keep having business plan competitions and all in the campus. So there's something called E-Cell in most of the campuses, and you can approach the E-Cell who would be knowing some right people who can help you because they engage those people in their activities. So this is for the students who are in the campus. They can seek this as a first point of contact. Then there are incubators. A lot of academic institutions and some research and development institutions, including CSIR, institutions have, and a lot of science and technology institutions, IITs, NITs, biotechnology institutions, they'll have these incubators. Incubators are generally sector specific or sector dedicated kind of institutions. They are government supported, not for profit institutions, which are created to support startup entrepreneurs in their sector. For instance, if it's a biotechnology incubator, it will support startups in their incubator, right? So you might not be selected for, whether you're selected for incubation or not, you will always find mentors there to be able to help validate your idea and help you in planning your business and giving you advice on whether to go ahead with this idea or how to shape this idea. So academic incubators are one good place that you can go to with your idea to get validation and to get support from mentors, right? There's something called accelerator programs. There are a lot of private accelerators. Accelerators come only at a stage where you have already developed the product or service and you have already tried it in the market. So once the pilot has been conducted in the market or your product is ready to launch in the market, that is the stage at which you can go to an accelerator program. An accelerator program helps accelerate the speed of your business growth, right? And there could be a funding attached with it. Otherwise, it's a 10 to 12 weeks kind of a guidance program in which they'll help your business raise fund or accelerate its speed in the market, right, of launching it in the market. So, and they'll help develop your business plan in a much better way with a very organized 10-12 week. But they're selected startups who are selected for it. So they have cohorts which they launch in a year. There will be 2 or 3 cohorts of 3 months, 2-3 months that different agencies will launch. Some of the government incubators also have their accelerator programs. There are corporate innovation programs. If your business idea has relevance to a certain sector of certain industry sector, you should look for the associations of that industry or the leading people in those companies in those industry. They launch idea. There are a lot of hackathons and idea challenges that are launched by these companies where they're looking for innovative ideas, but then your idea should be in ready shape, which you can go and demonstrate to them, and if they like, they'll put funds or they will support your idea and help take you forward. So these are called corporate innovation programs, right? Then like I told you about, okay, and then there are a lot of grant programs, seed funds, etc., that come. But a lot of these things are actually redirected through incubators. So Department of Biotechnology has its incubators, Department of MSME has its incubators, Department of IT and Electronics has incubators, Department of Science and Technology has incubators. Now Niti Aayog has Atal incubators. So they might be having funds and a lot of benefits for the startups or for entrepreneurs who want to start up. So these are some good places where you can go and start with. That reminds me, there's an incubator which is running a Department of Science and Technology program called Entrepreneurship in Residence. It is for individual entrepreneurs who want to work on some business idea. And there's some stipend provided for an year and plus mentorship from the incubator. But the condition is they have seats available for SC/ST candidates. There are 2 seats available right now for SC/ST candidates. So any one of you who qualifies in that criteria can apply for it and let me know. I'll connect you to the incubator. Okay. So thanks. I'll stop there and we'll talk about these things in further sessions in detail. Right. So think about your idea. Before I leave, think about that idea on which you'll be working. Unless you work in an idea, you'll not benefit from this workshop, right? Otherwise, it's general gyan, global gyan.
Okay. Any query, participants? If you have any query, then ask to ma'am.
No questions? Everyone is tired? Everyone is tired? Or everyone has understood everything? Okay. So I have a session day after tomorrow.
Tired. It's more than tired, ma'am. They are mesmerized. They are shocked. that there's so much to know and to understand in this business world, which they are going to study, which they are going to understand, know, and gain the knowledge from you in these coming 20-21 days.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So day after tomorrow, I'm going to meet you. If there is anything from this session that you've not understood or that you'd like to understand further, we can cover it day after tomorrow, right?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Indeed.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye then. Good evening.
Bye, ma'am. See you.
Bye, ma'am.
Day after tomorrow again.
Day after tomorrow. Yeah, see you
Bye-bye.
day after tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Okay, and now participants, I am sending the quiz of both session together. Okay.
Participants, while you complete your quiz, as it is being, I think it has already been administered. The link is already there in the group chat, right? I would like to say certain things. One, at least today we missed that group photograph thing, isn't it, Jyoti ma'am?
No,
We
ma'am.
missed that group photograph
No, ma'am.
thing.
No, miss.
We had the group photograph. Did we have the group photograph with Ritu ma'am as well?
Yes, ma'am.
We had, but none of you had opened your videos, cameras, and the group photograph has gone only with your name icons, right?
Yeah.
So can we have a group photograph with all the video on? Can we have that? Please put on your camera, everybody. We can so that we can have a group photograph. So, Famida, how did you like the session today?
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. The session was very insightful and very knowledgeable session. Preeti, the ma'am was really outstanding. The way she started the session, that was really helpful to us to open with them firstly, and then she started. So the way she start the session, that was very nice and very that she makes us feel very comfortable before starting the session. So I think that's a strategy of her. That's very good.
Right. Acha, one more thing. Okay, what has happened? Yeah. Acha, another thing, as you would have just gone through your schedule, which is there in the group. Shruti Iyer, madam, please keep your camera on. Shruti Iyer, madam, please. Sunidhi, very good. Deepti Singh, madam, ka camera. Deepti Singh probably has some signal issues. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So another thing is that as you would have seen in your schedules, there are 3 days where you have to do the survey. You have to get the questionnaire filled up 18, 19 and 20, right? So those 3 days we will not have this active session, this live session as we are holding here, but that does not mean that it's an off day for you all, right? You have to do your surveys, you have to make a questionnaire. I'll be taking the questionnaire session tomorrow again in the second, third and fourth session. So after that, you will be making your questionnaire and you will be doing this market survey, because the objective of this entire workshop is that you go back not only with a certificate but also with a business plan, okay, which of course you can execute immediately, or and if not immediately, very, I can say, in the near future, as Dr. Sanchita has done, because these people had made that business plan, they had that thing ready in their hand, so they could immediately execute it, and today she has become an entrepreneur. So this is the main objective, main aim of this entire workshop. And Captain Ritu Dubey, ma'am, she will be steering you all forward for to making the business plan, right? So that is why her sessions hold, can say her session hold a lot of importance and significance, because these are going to be the most practical ones, and they are going to give you something concrete, so that those sessions should not be missed. Apart from that, other sessions are also equally important. Like yesterday, I believe, or day before yesterday, somebody was talking about the legalities of the business. Right. So though we have the business opportunity session again tomorrow morning, but to be taken by a lead banker from PNB, but then based on this, I requested him and he has agreed to take the legal aspect of the business part first, and then he would be talking about the business opportunities or the loaning opportunities rather that PNB can give you more. Though I had give you something about some schemes, I told you about one of the schemes of the PNB. They have a few more, which of course he would be talking about. So that is there. So including that, and then the taxation part is there. So there are many such sessions which are important. In fact, I must say the entire program, all the sessions are very, very important. It was a little disheartening today to see the number falling. Maybe it may be due to the signal issue that could have happened. I admit that. But my request to all the participants is, please don't make it a practice. Right? It's just a matter of 25 days. After 25 days, if you go back, something having something concrete in your hand, that would then, of course, we would also be happy that, of course, we did something good for the society. We did something good for all of you. Right? And of course, you will also feel well. You will feel good that you have something concrete with you. So it's just a matter of 25 days. It's a humble request to all the participants to kindly be present and be regular for these sessions. All right. As it is, unlike the other two programs that we held in the past, in this third program, we have kept all the Sundays free for all of you to enjoy, to be with your families. So Sundays, we are not going to trouble you at all. Right, except this one Sunday, 18th July, where of course you'll be engaging your Sunday in collection of data, and of course I will tell you the methods how you can do it while sitting at home as well, so that you don't have to go out in this scorching sun. Of course, here in Lucknow, it's and in the entire northern India, it's very dirty weather, I must say. Right. It's very humid and hot and humid. South is comparatively, I must say, pleasant. Am I right, Miss Iyer? Am I right, Shruti?
Delhi is pleasant today, ma'am.
South is comparatively pleasant at this moment, time period, but North is quite hot and humid. Right. So I will not ask any one of you to go out in the scorching sun, in this hot weather and collect data. You can do it while sitting at your home. But yes, this particular Sunday you have to utilize. And because it is a Sunday, we are giving you 2 more days, one day, to collect the data and do the thing. Because after these 3 days, when you come back, you have to come with the analysis done of your data, on the basis of which you'll be making your business reports with Ritu Madam again. Right. So my humble request: one, please be regular, and secondly, at least once or twice in between, please put your cameras on. These speakers feel motivated. They feel wanted, like, yes, people are there to listen to them, So that matters a lot for all of us, the speakers. So please keep the camera on. And Jyoti Madam, starting from tomorrow, please don't forget, once the program starts, please ask everyone to put on the camera. And along with the speakers of the morning, we will have a group photograph done. And also in the second hour, the moment the speakers change, we'll just open the camera once. We'll have a group photograph, and then of course you can, if you want, you can switch off your cameras for the time being. And in case if you can, I have seen Famida opening her camera, keeping the video on quite thing. So her camera is on most of the time, and that really motivates and that really encourages. And if that can be done by all others, that would really be wonderful, I must say. Right. So with that note, I think you all have done your questionnaire, your quiz. If you have not,
no,
please
not.
complete your quiz and
No,
then
ma'am, I was listening to you. I think, yeah.
Pardon, ma'am?
I was.
Ma'am,
I
I am
was
actually out of the station. I am right now in South, in Chennai, for the treatment of my son.
No. See, if you have, I know. I remember you have difficulty.
Yes,
So
yes.
if that is the thing, I will not force anybody, and otherwise also I'm not forcing anyone. But yes, at least once or twice in the whole program, we can just put on the camera, and then we can put off the camera, right? Otherwise, also if you keep on keep your video on for the whole time, the signal issues will start pouring in. The laptop computers will hang also. That also happens. So that is also practically not possible. But at least for once or twice in the entire duration, we can keep the cameras on, and especially when the speaker is changing, at least we should also should have our photographs with every speaker. That will be a memory when these things will be sent to you. Sir is posting all the photographs in that group, so of course that becomes a memory, and that will become a memory later on. So abhi nahi lag raha hoga, but yes, it happens.
Yes.
It happens after you have completed this program. Na, I still remember with the second batch, on the 25th day after the valedictory was over, people were literally crying. I'm telling you, people were literally crying. They were in tears. It had become a routine for us, sitting for 4 hours in front of the laptop, attending this program, starting from 2:30 to 6. We had nothing to do. We only had this program to attend, and now we don't know what to do. So this happens. This happens. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. So you're going to miss all this fun, right? So these are all memories, and we should collect. We should keep them making as many as possible. All right. So with that, thank you guys. Thank you so very much being so patient, listeners. All of you are commendable ones. Beta has a very sweet smile.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Rupali also.
Thank you so much,
Right,
ma'am.
Akka, Shruti, everyone's so nice. So it's fine. If you have completed your quizzes, you can leave the group, and see you back tomorrow 2:30 sharp. Okay, bye bye. See ya. Good night.
Ma'am, I have a question to ask.
Thank you,
Good night, ma'am.
So ask the question.
Thank you very much. Nice to listen to you, ma'am. You are very much inspiring.
Yes, for so long. It's really appreciating for us that you are making so much effort for making all these things possible. So that's very, we all are very thankful to you. And the next thing is that, ma'am, we are just going to say this survey, yeah, ma'am, about the survey. Ma'am, I literally feel personally that we need a kind of session of information that how we can conduct a fruitful survey.
Famida, if you don't mind, your voice is little cracking. Maybe the signal issue is here at this moment at my side. So, would it be possible if we can talk on the phone?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure, we can call talk over the call anytime.
Please, on the voice call. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye, Shali madam.